I guess for all of us, that sets up a Georgia Michigan national championship. And Taylor, I'm just going to give you the honors to kind of kick off what you see maybe in this matchup and throw a prediction out there.
Yeah, I was not prepared for the prediction, but I don't know, man. I just went to this game last year, right? And it's not the same teams. I get that, but it was so funny. Like, I told somebody this even before the game started. It was like Michigan came into that game, and it's like, oh, Aiden Hutchinson is, this unbelievable prospect and all this stuff, and their fans are so hyped, and their team, you could just feel it. It was like they were happy to be there. Georgia came in pissed off. You could see it was like, this is a business trip. Like, there wasn't Michigan's offensive line is wearing run the damn ball shirts. And we just like destroyed them. I mean, there's some clips in that game, like Trevon Walker, like they run like a counter and they pull their center. And I mean, he just like crushes this guy. You just felt like it was a business trip for us. Anyway, and I know that's a different year, but I just feel like Georgia's culture is the team is just built up. Well, I guess multiple things. The one I was going to say is built on physicality. You brought up something earlier, Pat, that I just think that Kirby Smart's done an incredible job of, where you said, they're the reigning defending champion. There could be a letdown. Everything that I've seen and heard, it's like this team wants to prove something, maybe in some ways, because they're all the guys that a lot of these guys didn't have a major impact on the championship last year, right? And so I think he's done an incredible job of just saying, hey, it's a new week. No matter who we're playing, it's a new game. We're 0 for 0. And I've listened to some of his locker room speeches. It's right. It's around like, we're not trying to win this game. We're trying to win all the games. Mm-hmm. And so I think that like just having that mentality of like, we're never satisfied. We're trying to get better. This culture of physicality that I was kind of talking about, even when Will Muschamp came to Georgia, he made a comment. He's like, I've never seen Tuesday practices as physical as this. He's like, as a coach, this is what you dream of. And I think the downside of that is you probably have a few more injuries. The upside is that like they say that practices are harder than games. So if you think about going again, like having just a physically demanding practice and going against players on the other side of the ball that are probably equally as good or better than whoever you're going to play in the game, I just feel like eventually that just wears teams down. Like Ohio State, talent-wise, they're as good as Georgia. But let's see what happens in the third and fourth quarter. And so your question around the Georgia-Michigan game, I just feel like it's similar. Like this culture that's been established of like, this is who we are. Our identity is to be just a big physical team. And I think that one of the things that I think it's, in my opinion, a little bit overlooked with Georgia is, you talk about the tight ends and they're both incredible in their own way. I'd heard somebody made the comment. It was like, you've got Gronkowski with like Darnell Washington and then like Kyle Pitts with Brock Bowers, right? So you got like one, and it's just two really good tight ends. But I think that what that does, aside from just the ability to their pass catching ability, when you come out in formations, you can't really like zero in, right? If Ohio State comes out with 4 wide receivers, can they run the ball? They can, but it's going to be like a draw or something, right? When you come out and you've got tight ends and they're like spread out wide, and then you can do anything you want. And so I think it neutralizes some of this. Like, I know that they've got it, that Ohio State, and I'm sure Michigan does as well, has, some good pass rushing ends, just like they did last year, right? Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson Ojabo was going to be a first-round pick until he got hurt in the combine, right? And it's all you hear about. They didn't you never even heard their name in the game. So I feel like the physicality plus what you can do with these tight ends at Georgia, and we're not one-dimensional, right? If it was just a pass-first offense, it's like, we'll just turn your defensive ends loose, but you can't do that. So I just think it's so hard to prepare for. And again, I go back to what I was saying earlier. In the games where it really mattered, where it was a big hyped-up game and we had time to prepare this year, our offense just kind of showed out. So, yeah, I feel like it would be similar this year, especially after seeing the same two teams play last year. It'd be such a dominating performance. And then, the same thing I said earlier, where it feels like there's a lot of other players coming back. A.D. Mitchell's our number one receiver, true sophomore, coming back. We just got another really good tailback in Kendall Milton, who had been hurt the whole year. And honestly, I was a little bit frustrated with him because it seemed like he was running kind of timid. I think I actually mentioned to you in the South Carolina game, Pat, he got tripped up by shoestring tackles a couple of times. He's back and had, I think, over 100 yards the last game, just looked like really good. So it just feels like a lot of things are coming together. And then, you put Stetson Bennett back there, and I just feel like he's the conductor and doing and just orchestrating the entire offense. And the one thing I will say too, this is another thing I had in my notes, whether it's a scripted run or just him scrambling, when teams have to account for that, Georgia's offense is completely different. And I don't think that we should do a million design runs. I don't think that's how our offense is built. But I do think it's good from time to time to either let him scramble, run a bootleg, and if there's nothing there, let him turn out. Because we saw it in the Tennessee game when early on, I think it was our first touchdown drive, they blitzed right up the middle. And he just smoked this linebacker out to the side. He dives to the pylon and he does his call me thing because they had gotten his cell phone now. But it changed the whole complexion of the game because they knew they couldn't blitz anymore. So anyway, I know I'm throwing a lot out there, but yeah, with all those things, and this is the super homer biased pick, right? I just feel like we saw this game play out last year. So if it is Michigan and Georgia in the final, yeah, I mean, I feel like score prediction, maybe like a 38-24 or something like that. I mean, I just feel like Georgia shows up to that, right? The talent isn't there, but I think the desire, these guys want to prove that of all the people that went to the NFL, that was great, but we're really good too. So
what reasons or what areas do you think that if Michigan were to upset, where do you think the weaknesses would fall for Georgia?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm certainly not saying that no team could establish the run. I just don't see that being consistent. I also don't think you can abandon it. I think you're going to pigeonhole yourself and end up losing if you just completely abandon the run. So just because you aren't ultra successful, I think you still have to stick with it. But to me, Wayne, it's the secondary. I was just very surprised at, and I think that because of the brand of football that we play, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I don't think that fans really get. I think we're leaving our corners out on an island a little bit more to say, hey, we are going to stop the run, right? Run a lot of man coverage. And sometimes if you're a cornerback and they throw a really good back shoulder fade, what do you want a corner to do, right? You can be in perfect coverage. So I just think that really good offense can beat really good defense. So I think that our secondary, there's a lot of talented guys there, but if there is a vulnerability, I do think our secondary is good. It's just if you can throw the ball, it's kind of hard to stop sometimes. I don't think we saw that against LSU. And then another thing I just had to watch for, you guys are talking about players. I think that, you'll hear all about the Jalen Carters and Brock Bowers and all that. But we got a true freshman at safety. The guy's going to be an All-American. He's probably going to be a first-round pick in 2 years. He's a true freshman, Malachi Starks. I don't know if you guys remember when we played Oregon. He's the one who did that kind of falling backwards pick at the beginning of the game. It's kind of his coming out party. He missed on a couple of balls in man cover 2, right? Where it's he's over the top. They just throw a ball. He just misjudged it. LSU scores a touchdown. I don't think we're getting a lot of that with Chris Smith. You had mentioned him. He's a fifth-year senior, just got nominated as an All-American, really good. But if Malachi Starks, true freshman, do you try to pick on that a little bit as a safety? So I think that's where the weakness is, if you're asking me. If the team can kind of throw it around a little bit like that, then yeah, I do think that that can definitely present some trouble for us. So
okay, yeah, and we did see at least JJ McCarthy. He kind of he had some big plays, with Cornelius Johnson against Ohio State, which got them ahead of the game and caused Ohio State to play from behind. So I guess, are they capable of that? Sure. Will they do that against Georgia? I think that's the big question.
Right.
Yeah. So, but no, that I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you were talking about it earlier. I feel like for me, big plays count. A 2-play drive counts as much as a 10-play drive to grind it in. But I just feel like with big plays, you can only hit on so many of them to a certain degree. It felt like in that, at least from what I saw in the Ohio State game, it was to your point, Donovan Edwards, 2 long runs in the end of the game. Long pass play. I didn't see the rest of it, so maybe this isn't a little bit of uninformed opinion, but to me, there's just a very big difference. It's almost the opposite of the way that Georgia plays. I don't know how many plays over 40 yards we've had the whole year, but it's probably not that much. It's just these stable, consistent drives. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if you hit some of those, hey, I can sit here and say your offense looks better if you can produce consistent drives, but 3 plays that are big plays for touchdowns, that's 21 points. That's a lot of points. You don't need to do that much outside of that to win a game. So yeah, it's definitely scary when you got playmakers like that you're going against. So
yeah. Yeah, and for the record, I am going with Georgia on this. So, but I just want to hear your take on that.
No,
So,
you're good.
yeah. I'm going. I think I think they'll contain them and the Michigan's offense. So, if Michigan advances, right? But yeah, I'm gonna go like 40 to like 14. I think it'll be on the side of the blowout more so of there is my prediction. I just don't think the Michigan offense has the talent. Great. Yes, they have an offensive line which should help neutralize it more, but even then, yeah, secondary backers, I still think they have enough talent there to stop them. So yeah.
I'm kind of joining Wayne here. I was thinking 42-20, and I'm sure Taylor's probably cringing right now because he doesn't want us to kind of overhype his team going into
exactly.
this
I'm
playoff.
putting my computer out the window at the end of this. I'm superstitious.
Yeah, but it's like in every facet of the game that we're comparing the two teams, it's like UGA seems to have the upper hand here, and it's like maybe what I said earlier doesn't ring true. I mean, will a team be motivated to come out after winning a championship to win another? I mean, if we look at any of the major four sports in pros or even in college, I mean, if there's a place where dynasties are established, it's in college football. And it feels like Clemson had their run, Alabama had a run. It's like, who's not to say this is Georgia's time? This is Georgia's run. And yeah, I couldn't sit back and say Michigan, who goes up against an Ohio State, maybe the University of Illinois, squaring off against a team that's been battle tested. He's, beat up on Tennessee, he's played Alabama, LSU, even South Carolina on the road, took care of them. It's like, I mean, you guys just play in a different conference. It's a different league. It's a different standard. And, one stat that really stood out to me is Georgia in the red zone is number one on offense and number one on defense when you get to the red zone. So it's like in the times that matter most, when they're holding the ball, they're probably going to score. And when the other teams, actually getting into their territory, they're able to, kind of hold down the fort. So it's like in that, just Michigan coming back and trying to be, Rudy in this matchup after getting trounced last year. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
The big plays. There we go. The big play. You can't be in the reds. You don't have to. Yeah, I think that's Michigan's thing. Just get big plays and then don't even worry about the red zone stuff. So yeah.
So the only other thing I'll say is if Jalen Carter was my guy, just to for you guys to pay attention to on defense, just from a pure I like watching football, and this guy is just a physical specimen. I don't know how. I know when we were at the game, Pat, I pointed him out multiple times, but Darnell Washington, Wayne, I don't know if you're familiar. He's listed at 6'7", 270. They say he's more in the 6'8", 280 range. I know I'd shown him to you, Pat, there. It's really impressive. He'll line up sometimes next to Brock Bowers. Well, Brock Bowers is he's 6'3", 6'4", 230, 240. It's not a small human. Darnell Washington just dwarfs him. And the way that Georgia uses them, it's like having a left tackle who can pull and just destroy cornerbacks and stuff. And I saw it last week against LSU. On our first drive, they got called for a chop block because the dude made a business decision. He's a corner, and you got this guy 100 pounds bigger than you running at you. Are you going to take him up top? Hell no. You try to cut him, right? But yeah, just anyway, I would feel bad if I didn't say just watch him because it's a unicorn, right? There's this guy's 6'8", 280. He's a tight end. I don't know of anybody else, even in the NFL, who's that big. That can
Have they even unleashed him this year? I don't even know. I mean, in the game we went to, I didn't even see many plays from him, but has he had big games for Georgia this year? Is he just
Yeah, I mean, he's really interesting. When I say he's a unicorn, I really do mean that because you could take him for a month and just take him out to eat and he'd be a left tackle. He'd put on 20 pounds, and he'd be really good. And I think that they got him as the third-rated tight end in the draft. I don't know who's second. That Michael Meyer guy out of Notre Dame is probably number one. But I think that NFL teams are going to recognize his ability as a blocker. But to your point, as a casual fan, he probably hasn't had a game where he's had more than 5 or 6 catches. But when he does, he's just so hard to bring down. But it's always that thing where it's hey, I've got this really good, talented weapon on offense. It's well, who's not going to get the ball? Are you not going to give it to Brock Bowers? Are you not going to give it to – so I think they do a good job of utilizing him. But, yeah, I mean, you're going to see more of him, I feel blocking than catching the ball. I think he's only caught 1 or 2 touchdowns this year, which to me, when you get in the red zone, it's just lob it up to him. He's 6'8". So, But yeah, watching him in the run game for me, just as a football fan, is like it's so exciting, and also I just feel really bad for the players on the other team when he pulls around. It's like you're about to get wrecked. So yeah.
Wow.
Hey,
I was gonna say I could imagine like maybe like a team like the Ravens or something like that utilizing him like along with like Mark Andrews, right? Something like that would be nuts then.
right. That's actually a good comp. I feel like Mark Andrews he and Brock Bowers, they're similar in that way. Darnell Washington, he's just different, man. He's big. But yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Mark Andrews. He's just completely ruined my fantasy team this year. So I'm just gonna, no, all kidding aside, that's us looking at the CFP.